What is up, guys? My name is Sid Corrigan, and we are back on F1 24 Career Mode. Season 1, Episode 3, the Chinese Grand Prix. Coming up. First things first, from last week's episode, we had a secret meeting. Let's find out who that was with. And it's with Alpine. The only team on the grid worse than Haas, I think. Who would I be replacing? Ocon or Gasly? I'm not sure how they didn't see that driver pairing wasn't going to work, but it looks like a problem they're trying to remedy now. We're going to continue the talks, just see where it goes.
Scouring the socials and asking around, and I'm delighted to say that the team are none the wiser about us chatting with anyone else. And the meeting went well too. I know. I'm amazing. You're welcome.
Not sure what I'd be thanking you for exactly. Alpine's management's a hot mess right now. Looking at the development chart, and they're not far ahead of us, to be honest. One or two minor upgrades, maybe. Red Bull's still way out in front, with Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren close behind. Driver standings are close, however, with only 8 points separating the top 5. And ourselves down in 8th, with back-to-back top 10 finishes. Our contract's still looking good. Let's see which specialists are available this weekend and set our goals. With our manufacturing expert, Phil, we can definitely drive over 90 miles in a race weekend. We'll head over to Karen next. Whenever I fail one of her goals, she asks to see my manager. 250 gear shifts in a session is pretty easy. Then we'll head over to Paolo, our quality assurance tester, who hit the Haas gift shop on the way over. We can definitely avoid 3 penalties during the weekend. Then we'll head over to Sue, our strategy analyst, who thinks so little of us she can't even bother to look us in the eye. And we'll choose complete a driven lap in 2 different sessions, also a pretty easy goal. Then we'll head back to the home screen and get one of our upgrades on.
Okay, all the new parts have been fabricated and we're going to have them with us for the next Grand Prix.
So that engine power upgrade is a nice upgrade for China. And Hulkenberg's repurchased gearbox durability upgrade is on. We'll go see if we can afford any new upgrades. Hulkenberg has his eye on a rear downforce upgrade. And I'm going to go ahead and buy it because I also think that's a good upgrade for us. We definitely need it, as we are by far the worst car, aerodynamically speaking. Let's head to our very first sprint race weekend. And not only is it a sprint race weekend, but we have our first inclement weather of the year. So this is sprint qualifying 1. It is very wet out there right now. The rain is very heavy, but it's supposed to lighten up by the end of the session.
Take it easy to start with, the track's very wet.
So we waited until the end of the session and the rain has lightened up significantly. We're able to use the intermediates instead of the full wets. Heading into the first corner. We run a little bit wide of the apex, which forces us a little bit deep into the left-hander. Oh, we're very ginger getting back on the power, trying to avoid too much wheel spin. We lock up and run a little bit deep into turn 6. We are just sliding and drifting all over the place at the moment. The car is really squirrely getting on the power. We're trying to hold it together through that long left-hander. Driving the car right now feels like trying to wrangle an eel. I think we're right on the crossover of the full wets and the intermediates, but I think the inners are still faster. Nearly lose it 2 or 3 times there. And this is my first wet weather driving on this game, so it's very much like being an F1 rookie as we're trying to wrangle this beast in unfavorable conditions.
And we've been pushed down to P20.
Which sounds bad, Mark, but we haven't put a lap in yet. We waited until the end, when the rain was a little bit lighter and the track was in better condition. No sense risking the car on the full wets in heavy rain when we could just wait till the end and put in a faster time anyway. Just trying to think strategically around the final corner. We'll hit the battery. That'll be a 1:45.2.
Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry. We'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
Good enough for 6th. Gets us into Sprint Quali 2. And the rain has totally stopped now. So just to clarify the rules, during Sprint Quali 1 and 2, you have to use mediums. Softs, 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 softs. Well, we're going to do the best lap we can on our one new set of medium tires. Hopefully we can make it through, since we're actually following the rules. And hopefully we can steal a slipstream off Albin here and not get caught up behind him in the corners. Just a frustrating glitch in the game. Like, I appreciate the fact they got the new sprint rules in the game, but you released the game so early this year. You could have waited a few weeks and worked out all of these glitches. Anyway, back to the game. This will be our only run of Sprint Quali 2, so we have to get a good lap in here.
We've dropped to P15.
We're getting a little bit of dirty air off the back of Albin. But as we head onto the straight, we should be close enough to catch a nice slipstream off him. We tuck in behind, and we're definitely picking up a nice slipstream off him. Gotta take what we can get when you're in a floor car. We have a little bit of a lockup into turn 14, into the hairpin. That did not help us. Get a little bit more slipstream down the start-finish straight. Only 13th. So we will not be progressing into SQ3.
With qualifying complete, all that remains now is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
You know, we were only 3 spots out of making it to SQ3, and there were 4 who did make it to SQ3 that used softs illegally, and 1, Yuki Tsunoda, who just missed SQ3. So, by following the rules, we still almost made it. And our rating gets a little bit of a bump since we beat our teammate in qualifying again. Hulkenberg's been having a tough season so far. So the forecast is saying rain halfway through the sprint. Let's head to the sprint.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Perez, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Albon, Sargent, Tsunoda, Stroll, Haas, Gasly, Ricciardo, Bottas, Russell, Ocon, Joe, and Nico Hulkenberg rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
So as we get ready to start the sprint, both the Alpines qualified behind me, which is not making a good case for recruitment on their part. I think all the cars have started on the mediums for this sprint race.
Clutch bite is good, gearbox is responding normally. Make sure to warm up the tyres and brakes. Warm the tyres and brakes throughout the lap, please.
I don't think anybody risked running the soft tire here. And everybody's saving the hard tire for the actual race, as they think that's probably the best race tire. On this particular track, at least.
Okay, not the best placement there, mate. Let's try and get a good launch as the race starts.
and that was horrible parking. And the 5 red lights. The Chinese sprint is underway. We get a ton of wheel spin off the start, and Gasly's able to jump ahead of us, but we're able to pull back in front as we're going to take the outside line around the first corner. As everybody is concertinaed up on the inside, we were able to gain 4 places, all the way up to 9th. Only 1 place away from the points now, as Albon's going to try to retake 9th. He goes up our inside, and we have a big lockup and nearly run into the back of the Ferrari there. We are able to hold off Albon for the moment, as we watch a battle for the lead between Hamilton and Leclerc. As Perez overtakes his own teammate Verstappen, the pole sitters dropped all the way down to 4th. He's had a really tough start to this race, as the Ferrari and the Mercedes are still side by side. They've been stuck together nearly all the way through Sector 2. And it's going to be Hamilton who's going to get the better exit out of turn 13. And the Mercedes takes over the lead. But Leclerc isn't done. He's going to try to attack Hamilton down the long back straight here in China. Perez is going to join in on the action. They're going to go 3 wide into turn 14. Looks like Hamilton came out on top of that, but Perez is still attacking Leclerc. And it looks like the Ferrari is able to squeak back ahead.
DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone.
As we've got a good run on Sainz and the Ferrari ahead. We're going to try to go around the outside in turns 1 and 2. We're going to have a little bit of a lockup as we are running out of real estate down the inside. I didn't want to run into the back of Piastri there. Still side by side with the Ferrari. As we fake to the outside and cut to the inside, make a big dive up the inside of Sainz into turn 6. We have a big snap of oversteer. But we do manage to get ahead of Sainz for the moment, as the back end of our car did tap the front of Sainz as we were making our correction from that big snap. We are holding on to 1 point right now in 8th as we try to catch the back of Piastri before the DRS zone. But it's going to be Sainz in the Ferrari who's going to dive up our inside into turn 11. And he gets through pretty quickly. That was a calculated risk, as I figured it was better to be behind Sainz and have DRS than have him behind us and not have DRS. Maybe we can ride the coattails of that Ferrari up to the back of the McLaren. It might be our only way to hold off Albon in that very fast Williams as well. We are gaining on Sainz with DRS, but that Ferrari is just much faster than us. Even with DRS, we weren't making huge strides towards him. As we move on to lap 4, Albon is attacking us down the start-finish straight. And Albon's able to get through into the first corner as we dropped out of the DRS of Sainz once he got into the DRS of the McLaren ahead. Now we have to do our best to stick with Albon in that very slippery Williams. The Williams doesn't look great through the corners, but they are very fast in a straight line. Although part of that is I think my wings are a bit higher, as there's supposed to be rain here in the sprint halfway through. And I'm kind of hoping for rain actually, as we seem to have better pace in the wet. As we're able to gain on Albon through the corners, but he pulls away from us on the exits and on the straights. Let's see what we can do with DRS here. We need a good exit out of turn 14. As Albon had a bit of a slide there, that'll help us. Have to be wary of Tsunoda behind us in the RB as well. As even with the DRS open, we don't seem to be making a lot of progress on Albon in the straight here. We catch up a little bit towards the end of the straight, but we didn't have a ton of overspeed there. As we follow Albon through turn 16, onto the start-finish straight, we're approaching half distance in the sprint. And we're a long way away from any points. And we're gonna dive up the inside of Albon into turn 1. He tries to hang with us, but those higher wings allow us to carry more speed through the corner and finish off the move, up into 9th. As we rejoin back on lap 6, we're back behind the Williams again, as Albon had re-overtaken us with DRS. It's gonna be DRS sharing until the end, and whoever has it last is gonna end up with 9th, I think, as neither one of us seems to be able to keep the other one behind for any extended period of time. As we touch that inside curb and nearly spin. We very nearly ended our race right there, getting on that inside curb. At the front of the field on lap 6, Hamilton leads, but he's under pressure from Leclerc. The Ferrari's very close with DRS. Hamilton goes defensive. And Leclerc's gonna try to go around the outside of the turn 14 hairpin into the little kink that's turn 15. And Leclerc's gonna have the inside line into the final corner. And the Ferrari's taking the lead. But Hamilton's not giving up yet. He's gonna try to go to the inside of Leclerc. The Mercedes is through, and Perez is gonna try to squeeze through as well. Leclerc, who just got first moments ago, is at very real risk of dropping all the way down to 3rd, as Perez has his Red Bull side by side with the Ferrari heading towards turn 6, as neither driver is willing to back out of it, and that's giving Hamilton a bit of a cushion up there in 1st. But Leclerc in the Ferrari has the inside line heading into the fast left-hander of turn 7, and that forces Perez to back out as we chase Albon through turn 7 as well. Down into turn 8 and 9, we're able to get close to the Williams. But on the exit of turn 10, Albon's able to pull back away. For the moment at least, we're close enough to get DRS, but too far away to make a move. Down the back straight of lap 8, Leclerc's making another bid to take the lead of the race as he goes around the outside of the turn 14 hairpin. I imagine Hamilton is going to try that same move where he lets Leclerc through and then re-overtakes down the start-finish straight with DRS. Let's see if Hamilton can pull off that same defensive move again. Hamilton goes to the inside. Leclerc keeps the outside line. Leclerc manages to keep the lead, and it's Hamilton under pressure from Perez in the Red Bull this time. As the outside turns to the inside for Perez in turns 3 and 4, Hamilton in the Mercedes is slightly ahead as we head towards the tight right-hander of turn 6. Hamilton's trying to hold on to 2nd on the penultimate lap of the sprint race that he'd led the vast majority of. But Perez is going to get it as we enter the fast left-hander of turn 7. The Red Bull is snatched 2nd away from Hamilton as we've spent the vast majority of this sprint race frustratingly staring at the rear wing of Albon's Williams just out of reach ahead of us. On to the final lap of the sprint. We're just clinging onto the back of Albon with DRS and fending off Tsunoda in that RB that looks like it finally has some pace. Trying to save some battery for that final push down the back straight with DRS. Got to do everything we can to get as close to Albon as possible, as we might actually have a shot to get through with DRS and full battery deploy. Out of the long right-hander at turn 13, looks like there's a heck of a battle ahead between Norris, Alonso, and Verstappen, all scrapping over 5th, 6th, and 7th. And Albon's going defensive against us, but we're able to get through before the hairpin of turn 14, as he'd completely run out of battery. And Leclerc and the Ferrari wins the Chinese Grand Prix sprint, and we're gonna come in 9th.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
1 place away from points. It's a bit frustrating, but we just didn't have the pace today.
So with the sprint concluded, join us next time for qualifying. And of course, the main event, this weekend's Formula One Grand Prix. We'll see you next time.
And with that sprint win, Leclerc has got himself within 4 points of Verstappen at the top of the field. And Ferrari only trails Red Bull by 3 points in the constructors' race. So the weather looks like it's going to be clear the rest of the weekend. Let's head to qualifying.
Everyone ready? Okay, let's go.
So we only have 2 new sets of softs. So we'll be able to use a new set in Q1 and hopefully into Q2. And if we manage to make it into Q3, I guess we'll just figure it out when we get there. Although China is a fairly high degradation circuit, so I don't know that we'll be able to use a set of softs twice on this particular track. A little bit of a wag of the rear end on the exit of 3 and 4 there. As we head into turn 6 hairpin, we actually got pretty good rotation in turn 6.
30 seconds left in the session. We've been pushed down to P19, I'm afraid.
We waited until the end of the session, where the track was at its best, since we only had 1 set of tires to go on. This is going to be a high-pressure qualifying, as we're only going to have 1 chance to get a good lap in and make it into Q2. I think if we can qualify well, that we have good enough pace to stay within the realm of getting points. We just don't have a good enough car yet to make up for bad qualifying. As Hulkenberg's kind of shown that, he hasn't been able to move forward very well in many of these races. We are working on that, developing the car. As we come through the turn 14 hairpin, it's been a pretty workmanlike lap. Solid enough to get us into Q2. Through the final corner, we run a little bit wide, but we're still pretty good there. And where do we finish? 10th. It is good enough to get us into Q2. As it looks like Alonso's picked up a 5-place penalty. And Perez in a Red Bull down in 11th right behind us.
Okay, engines fired up, we're set.
As we head out on our one and only lap here in Q2, the pressure's on again, as we only have that 1 new set of tires. So we're gonna have to make it work here. Coming through the first and second corner, that very long right-hander. We ran a little bit wide and we had a little bit of a lockup into turn 3, and we've been locking the front left there the entire weekend so far. The guys on my side of the garage are gonna be happy already, as we've already out-qualified Hulkenberg. He was eliminated in Q1. As we go into the fast left-handed turn 7, we're going to use this chance on the track to save a little bit of battery. And then through the double left-handers of 9 and 10, we turn the battery back on. We run a little bit wide there. Not ideal. We lock up a little bit into turn 11 as we head into the very tricky right-hander of turn 12. You have to get a good exit here as you carry all that speed down the straight, but the back end is always wanting to step out on you almost the entire corner. This feels like a slightly better lap than we had in Q1, but we still have the very tricky hairpin turn 14. Little snap of oversteers. We try to get back on the power. Through the final corner now. That curb is tricky. It likes to unsettle the car. Over the line. And it's 8th. And we've made it into Q3. Verstappen has topped both sessions so far. But the McLarens with Piastri out in 11th and Norris out in 13th. That's quite a surprise. The McLarens are struggling here. So here's the problem I was alluding to earlier. The newest set of softs we have for Q3 is 11% worn. It's the set we used in Q1. So we're just gonna have to do the best we can here and hope that another driver makes a mistake, as we didn't have nearly as many tires available to us for qualifying because of the sprint. Although I still call it a victory that we made it into Q3. That puts us in position to get some points from the main race. So we have a little bit of a snap coming out of the turn 6 hairpin. The qualifying has shown that we have some decent one-lap pace, but our race pace isn't nearly as good. So our pace is a little smoke and mirrors. It's a little bit opposite to normal, as I usually qualify okay and then have better pace in the race. But China is definitely not one of my stronger circuits as we head down the long back straight here at China, which is about 1.1 kilometers long. I think that's about 0.8 miles. Ending in a hard braking zone into the hairpin of turn 14. Excellent passing zone. As we head towards the final corner now, we've been fighting the car this whole lap. And we have a big lock up and run wide, and yeah, I don't think we had the pace on that lap in the used softs. It was a big mistake at the end, but I don't think it would have mattered either way. We'll be starting 10th.
Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
So Alonso was able to get second, but that 5th-place penalty is going to drop him down. As we see our ratings, we get a nice boost of pace there. Let's head to the Grand Prix.
It's time again then for Formula One in Shanghai, northwest of the thriving city of over 24 million people. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before we head into the braking zone of turn 14. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Zhou, Haas, Oscar Piastri, Albon, Norris, Bottas, Ocon, Gasly, Sargent, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, and Yuki Tsunoda.
So we'll be starting next to the kick Sauber of Zhou. We're going to try something a little different here, start on the hards. We're going to have to work hard on this formation lap to get the heat into the tires, because we're going to need a good launch as Zhou is starting on the mediums. I'm a little bit leery of starting on the hards, but that's what the team recommended.
Checks are good. We need to stay in formation and start bringing the car up to temperature, please. Get some load into the tyres and work the brakes. We want them nice and warm by the end of this lap.
I usually prefer to start on the mediums, though I have a little bit better options if I want to pit a little bit earlier.
Superb parking there, mate. Let's make sure we get the edge on the surrounding drivers as the lights go out.
And the 5 red lights, the Chinese Grand Prix is underway. And we get a pretty decent launch as we try to go up the inside of Zhou. And we're going to try to go up the inside of Stroll as well. Stroll's able to hang it around the outside through the first corner. And now into the second corner, he's still on our outside. We're going to have to leave him room there as we run a little bit wide, and no, we have a big slide. Full opposite lock. And I think that little bit of contact between our front wing and Stroll is what saved us from spinning as we dive back up the inside of Zhou and recapture 9th for the moment as Zhou and Piastri fight it out behind us for 10th. We're trying to catch back up to Stroll and mitigate that mistake we made. We were lucky not to spin. We could have ended our race right there. We were very fortunate we didn't break a wing either. It's essential that we stay on the back of this Aston Martin. With DRS starting at the end of lap 1, we have to try to make sure that mistake doesn't impact the rest of our race by dropping off the lead pack. So we're gonna burn a lot of battery down the back straight here. Heading towards the turn 14 hairpin. And we're very close to DRS. But I think we're just outside the range. As Zhou is gaining quickly on us, we make another mistake in that final corner and run wide.
DRS now enabled. DRS enabled.
Verstappen has maintained the lead from pole, but Leclerc is on the attack on Russell. The Mercedes and Ferrari are side by side. And now Leclerc gets through. Up into second. As we're on lap 3, we've lost the position to Zhou with DRS down the long back straight. And we're trying to fight back. Zhou is on those better mediums for the moment. Hopefully, as the tires degrade, we'll be able to get that position back. Very close to the back of him, and Piastri in that McLaren is keeping us honest as well. Towards the end of lap 4, Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Hamilton, and Perez are your top 5, as the top has stayed pretty static so far. Some tire management at the front as we head on to lap 5. Zhou has used those better mediums to pull away from us, and it's allowed Piastri to get through with DRS. We'll do our best to hang with Piastri, and hopefully he can drag us back forward towards Zhou. That's a little bit what I was worried about during qualifying, that the qualifying pace made it look like we had better pace than we do in this car at the moment.
Okay, mate. Engine's running too hot. Engine is running too hot. Let's keep it a bit cooler for now, please.
And that's one of the problems right there, is our engine is overheating. As we're down the back straight on lap 5, and we're defensive from Albon. The Williams is trying to make his way through as well, as we're fighting that overheated engine. But it's Bottas that makes the dive on Albon and makes it through, and he's trying to come through both of us. We do manage to hold him behind us for the moment, but we are clinging on and struggling with the straight line speed deficit.
Okay, so gap to the car ahead, 2.8 seconds.
As we've dropped down to 11th, and well off the back of Piastri and Zhou. And now we're being attacked by Bottas and the other kick-salver. Race isn't going how I planned at the moment. Part of that is me struggling right now. And the other part is just a reflection of where the car is at. As Bottas tries to go around the outside into turn 6, and we have a huge lockup and drift through the hairpin. And Bottas skates through. And another driver having a tough race, Norris, is now the one sniffing at our exhaust. As Norris is probing through turns 9 and 10, trying to find a way through. As we're hanging on the back of Bottas at the moment, as we're still fighting the objective of keeping the engine cool and not dropping all the way back. As we have kept the DRS on Bottas, so we should be able to defend from Norris, at least for the rest of this lap.
Okay, mate, that still wasn't quite what we needed, I'm afraid, but look, let's move on. Get your head down and chin up and focus till the end of the race.
And our engine is very much still overheating as we failed that objective. I tried a lot of different things, getting out of the dirty air, lifting and coasting. I could not get our engine temperature to go down, so we'll do our best, but that was rough.
Okay, so we're leading our teammate by 2.1 seconds. The car behind's gaining on you by 0.5 a lap.
And like we can see here, through the corners, we're able to hang with Bottas really well, but we are struggling in a straight line. As we see here on lap 8, the battle between Piastri and Zhou. Piastri's able to get past and up into 9th, as we've been able to hold on to Bottas in 12th and fend off Norris in a much faster McLaren, using the DRS to compensate for our struggle in a straight line. Bottas is on those mediums that should be falling off here soon, I would think, as Norris is very close to us. We have to make a defensive shake into the turn 6 hairpin, in order to stay ahead on lap 9 down the long back straight. And Russell is going to attack Leclerc for second. Side by side through the turn 14 hairpin. Russell's going to have the inside into the final corner. And the Mercedes is through, up into second. And Perez runs wide over the curb. But he's got to run on Hamilton as he's attacking for fourth. Perez is going to go up the inside. And he's through, dropping Hamilton down to fifth. As on lap 10, we are all over the back of Bottas as those mediums have started to fall off. He placed the car really well defending from us as we're going to use some battery heading towards the turn 6 hairpin. Into Bottas' slipstream. But we're unable to make the move yet. The combination of carrying a little bit too much wing and our engine constantly overheating, and we are just dying in a straight line right now. As we see Zhou nearly 4 seconds ahead. We're just watching our chance at points evaporating before our eyes. We'll keep pushing. There's always a chance at a safety car. We watch Leclerc and the Ferrari on the exit of turn 13. And notice the huge gap that Verstappen's been able to pull. The Red Bull is absolutely dominating this race here in China. As Russell goes defensive, that was a very late, very aggressive move by Russell. And he manages to hold on to second as we're hanging with Bottas through turn 16. Heading on to lap 12. DRS is open.
Right, keep pushing. You're gaining on the car ahead.
We're gonna dive up the inside of the first corner. We go a little bit deep. Bottas is gonna try the switchback, but we're able to carry more speed. We leave him some room up the inside, but we are through. Up into 11th. As we're finally able to get through the Kick Sauber. But after all that drama, later that lap down the back straight, Bottas skates back through with the DRS. It's a little demoralizing as we only kept that for half a lap. As we have a big lock up through turn 16 and run very wide.
We're approaching the pit window and you're going to be on mediums.
We're going to have to use some battery to stay ahead of Norris. And that mistake...
Okay, you're losing a small amount of time to the car behind. Let's keep pushing.
Oh, we're going to dive up the inside of Bottas.
Okay, that wasn't quite what we needed there, I'm afraid. But listen, not to worry. Get your head down and chin up. And let's focus for the rest of this race.
Okay, Mark, thanks. As we dove up the inside of Bottas late into the second corner.
And gap to the car in front, 4.2 seconds.
As now Norris and Bottas are side by side behind. Bottas holds on. And on lap 13, Leclerc dives to the inside of Russell. Still side by side as we head towards the final corner. Russell will have the inside. But Leclerc dives off into the pits. He'll be one of the earliest to stop. Hoping for an undercut. As Norris is going to try to come through on us down the back straight now. Bottas at pit as well, which means we had lost the DRS. Norris is able to get through, but we're able to dive back up the inside of the turn 14 hairpin as more cars peel in to make their stops. And on lap 15, Norris is going to try it again with DRS as we go very defensive, dumping all of our battery to try to stay ahead of the McLaren. Norris goes to the outside, and through turn 14, we're going to be side by side. But we managed to keep the advantage. And on lap 17, the leaders are starting to come back through as they are on brand new tires. As Leclerc gets through easily, we're going to use the Ferrari for DRS. As Alonso and Perez are battling behind, we're going to try to stay out of their way as they are not in our race. And we can't afford to lose time defending from them. And our long stint is coming to an end as we signal we're coming in on this lap. As the leaders are going to start blowing past us here soon. Into the pits to fit the medium tires. Hopefully we can find a little bit better pace on the softer tire as we struggled during the hard stint. always looking behind us. We nailed the turn in. There's a little bit of trouble with the rear right, and we have a very slow pit stop.
Let's finish this race strong. Pit strategy complete.
And that just
See these tires through to
sums
the
up
end
the
now.
struggles of this entire weekend as we watch Leclerc in the Ferrari trying to get past the Aston Martin of Alonso side by side into the final corner. And Leclerc is able to improve up to second, but their battling is given an opportunity to Perez in the Red Bull, and he's going to try to go around the outside of Leclerc into the first corner, and Perez is able to swoop all the way around the outside to make this a Red Bull 1-2, as we're just trying to catch up to the back of Sargent and get out of last place. After that slow pit stop just compounded an already frustrating weekend. But we are on the fresher tires, and we should be able to get past a lot of this group of cars, including our teammate, who's up in 17th. I would really like to get past him, as we are very close to Sargent, heading into the left-handers at turn 9 and 10. Not close enough to make a move yet. Running out of laps here on lap 21, as we're catching up to the back of the Williams with DRS. We're gonna make a late dive up the inside. We have quite a lockup. We banged some tires, but we are through. Up into 19th. Definitely not the cleanest move I've ever made, but a move born out of desperation and frustration with the entire weekend. As Gasly in the Alpine is our next target, we're able to close right up to the back of the Alpine through the first two corners. But there's nowhere to make a move yet, as we're just trying to stay close. As we have a little snap of oversteer as we're in the dirty air of the Alpine. As we're gonna dump some battery as we head towards the hairpin of turn 6. And we're gonna make a late move up the inside. And we're able to get through.
Nice
Up into
work, mate.
18th
That
as we're
puts you off
chasing
the
our
race.
teammate down now. On to lap 24. And we're seeing Ocon in the Alpine make a move up the inside of Tsunoda in the RB. And Norris is gonna try to follow him through as well. Norris and Tsunoda are side by side heading into turn 3. And this has given us an opportunity to dive up the inside of our teammate and improve up into 17th as we watch the battle between Norris and Tsunoda ahead. Hulkenberg's gonna try to go up the inside of the hairpin at turn 6. Side by side into the hairpin. We're gonna leave him plenty of room, as I'm sure everyone in the garage is sweating, hoping we don't run into each other. But we are through on Hulkenberg, and Tsunoda's able to fend off Norris. As we head into the left-hander of turn 9, we're gonna dive up the inside of Norris. And we are through on the McLaren, as we try to chase down Tsunoda now for 15th. As we get a shot of the leaders on lap 25, and Verstappen has absolutely left everybody in the dust. With Perez, Leclerc, Alonso, and Hamilton the rest of your top 5. Behind them as we chase down Tsunoda on lap 25. Through the fast left-hander of turn 7. The right-hander of turn 8. We're gonna dive down the inside of the left-hander at turn 9 and make another pass there. Very similar to the move we made on the McLaren as we nearly lose the car. We got up on that curb and nearly spun it. On lap 27, the 3-time world champion and the Red Bull is absolutely outclassing everybody. Miles ahead of the field today. Don't know that I've ever seen a car that far ahead in a career mode that wasn't a player. As the cars come through turn 14 on the penultimate lap, we start our final lap, trying to chase down Ocon in the Alpine. We're gonna dive to the inside, but Ocon places his car well, but we're gonna force it through. Up into 14th, ahead of both Alpines.
Okay, good work.
Not a
Great
ringing endorsement for them trying to recruit me. Verstappen through the final corner all by himself, across the line, and he dominates the Chinese Grand Prix. As Perez and Leclerc come through the final corners. Perez and Leclerc round out the podium, with Alonso, Hamilton, and Russell the rest of the top 6. And Zhou will get a point in his home Grand Prix as we make our way to the final corner. We're gonna cross the line and finish 14th.
Okay, pick up rubber and bring it home.
Definitely one of the tougher weekends we've had. We're gonna have to try to figure out where it went wrong and bounce back from this in the next race.
It's victory in Shanghai, and what a victory it is after an incredible Grand Prix.
I mean, it looked like they were in a different category at points during the race, led every lap. I mean, what more can we say?
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
As Red Bull bring home a strong 1-2, and Leclerc rounds out the podium with Ferrari. Verstappen leads the Drivers' Championship now by 15 points. Perez in third, 20 points back, and Alonso in fourth, only 21 back. So it's still close at the top, and we're down in ninth with 11 points. And our teammate still yet to score one. In the Constructors, Red Bull lead now by 26, and we are down in sixth, 17 back of McLaren in fifth, and 8 ahead of Kick Sauber in seventh. We get a nice boost to our ratings, even though that weekend was quite a struggle. We did manage to beat our teammate, but we missed out on points in the sprint and the main race. We do get a slight recognition boost since we beat our teammate in the sprint and the main race. 1% higher, I believe. And I think we accomplished all of our goals for our specialists. So that's a positive we can take from the weekend at least. And that's all I got for now. I'll see you next time, guys. Goodbye.